So thanks everyone for coming along today. We're very excited to have Stefan Knight, Startup Advisor at AWS, joining us to discuss the growing climate tech industry and how AWS is getting involved. It's a super relevant topic at the moment as AWS aims to power operations with 100% renewable energy by 2025 and achieve a net zero carbon by 2040. Please ask any questions using the QA feature, and questions may be answered at the end of the presentation. There is also a chat bar on the right reserved for any comments or feedback that you have. So before I hand it over to Stefan, just to make sure everyone's awake, we'll kick off with a few questions, technical questions on AWS. So the first one is, which is not a type of EC2 instance? Memory optimized, accelerated computing, general purpose, performance optimized, or memory? Oh, sorry, I did memory optimized twice. I'll give you a hint, it's not memory optimized. Okay. So give everyone another 30 seconds. Well, about everyone's voted now. So interesting result. The actual answer is performance optimized. So accelerated computing is a type of EC2. That was news to me as well. So a bit of a funny one. Cool. I'm going to auto scaling next. So where does a user specify the maximum number of instances with the auto scaling commands? Is it the policy configuration, tags configuration, auto scaling group, or auto scaling launch configuration? I'll give everyone 10 more seconds. Again, a bit of a split. I'm not sure I shared the results of the last one. I do apologize, but the results here, the correct answer is in fact auto scaling group for this one. So third and final question. Which service performs the function of terminating an unhealthy instance and replacing it with a new one? Is it sticky sessions, fault tolerance, connection draining, or none of the above? And finally, so just sharing the results of this one. Again, the correct answer was fault tolerance. I'd love to hear if you would object or have any questions about these. So feel free to post in the chat. I'll throw it over now to Stefan. Stefan, if you want to take the mic.
Thanks, Jackson. Appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I'm pleased to join you. Again, I'm Stefan. I'm a startup advisor over at AWS. So I work with a lot of startup companies. I have a long background working with startup companies. In fact, the company that I was with prior to joining AWS was Gorilla Stack. So some of you may know Gorilla Stack. We did cost optimization and DevOps automation. That company was acquired a few years back, and AWS decided to hire people with a startup background to work with startup customers. So that's what I've been doing as a startup advisor. But like many of you, perhaps you as well, I had a bit of a crisis of conscience about a year ago as I became more aware of what was going on with climate change, as we all have, right? It's in the news, being talked about. As I sat in my home in Katoomba and watched the fires, coming up in the Blue Mountains, it really started to hit home for me that we're having this impact on the planet, and the question arose for me, what could I personally do about it? And so I started to read a bit and do some research, and instead of it being a really negative kind of journey of enlightenment or discovery, like, hey, the sky is falling, we're all going to die type of thing, it turned out to be quite positive. I realized that there are many things being done around the world to address, this issue, this man-made issue, in the making since the 1800s onwards. And so it was a bit uplifting. So I was very fortunate that a friend of mine, Nick Levinskas, who's also well known in the startup space, started a community called ClimateSolid. And I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about that, to give you some insight into what's happening in Australia, specifically with startup companies addressing climate change and helping some of our bigger companies like the energy companies to innovate faster and embrace climate neutral, climate friendly policies and technologies. And then I was quite tickled pink when Daryl, who is the founder of Polar 7 in this meetup, pinged me right before the holidays and said that he was thinking about climate and wanting to make sure that the Polar 7 was getting involved in initiatives to help companies develop their solutions with respect to climate. And of course, with climate technology, there's a lot of hardware, especially in the areas of IoT and energy, and then plenty of software. All kinds of new software systems, are being invented to adapt the energy technologies, recycling technologies, et cetera, et cetera. So today I've got my AWS hat on, but I'm coming to you as a ClimateSolid ambassador to talk a little bit about what's happening. And before I jump in, just one other thing of note: we track investment into different segments of the startup ecosystem and landscape in ANZ specifically and globally. And I was somewhat stunned but pleased to learn that the climate tech and sustainability was the second largest investment category. So if you're aware of what's happening with startups here in Australia and New Zealand, quite a bit of new venture capital is coming into the space. FinTech has been the prime segment where most of the money, in terms of percentage-wise, is going. But I was quite surprised to see last year climate tech, was punching well above its weight on the radar and getting quite a bit of investment. So it's a real there's a real drive with ANZ within Australia to develop these types of companies and business models. So let's talk about ClimateSolid. What's ClimateSolid? What are we up to? Let's see, can I advance the slide? What happened? There we go. Okay. So the mission at ClimateSolid is to facilitate removing millions of tons of carbon, from the environment. I mean, there's a variety of greenhouse gases, and job one is to get carbon and methane and those greenhouse gases to offset, so we're not creating any more, and then to remediate, to remove. Some of the companies involved in the global climate pledges are pledging to remove all the carbon from the environment that their company has been responsible for since inception. And I quite like that. So it's not just about offsetting what we're producing in terms of carbon and greenhouse gases. It's about going back and kind of cleaning up and restoring. So taking it out of the environment, restoring habitats. So the community itself aims to help 1,000 climate tech companies. We created an index of all the climate tech companies in ANZ, and there are 600, actually more than 600 companies on that index. So we're well on our way to identifying 1,000 companies to help. But we want to help them with go-to-market strategy. We want to help them acquire customers. We want to help them raise capital, to recruit. Obviously, we're seeing a trend where people are deciding where they'll work depending on what the social impact or other impact perhaps is of the business that they go to work for. So helping these climate tech companies project their high impact, both social and environmental impact, out to the labor market to attract talent is important. At the same time, creating new jobs. Now, here in the kind of the AWS world and the tech world, we've got a labor shortage really here from companies day in and day out, that is hard to find people to come join their companies. So we're going to have to get really creative to create new jobs. We're going to have to work within this ecosystem to make sure that there are people that can fill those jobs. So that's the mission at ClimateSolid. So it's at the moment, it's about 200 companies that have joined ClimateSolid. It's a whole bunch of people from the investment community that have joined ClimateSolid, and we're all rallying around trying to help these companies grow, trying to remove obstacles from them. And ClimateSolid is a partner to AWS in our startup program, which we call Activate. So ClimateSolid and AWS work very closely together to help these startups. This is the requisite logo slide, right? So these are companies that are all part of ClimateSolid, and they're from diverse sectors. So we've got folks inventing, the next generation of plant-based food like V2 Food and Vow. We've got folks in consumables. So Wrapup is a biodegradable plant-based plastic wrap, so that's not going out in the landfill. So looking at the circular economy and making sure that we're not consuming and getting rid of fossil-based trash, in essence. And lots of energy companies. You see Bright Capital there. Bright Capital is probably one of the better known, better financed startups in the market, around the energy space, providing loans for solar systems, but more recently actually getting into the energy business as an energy retailer and helping people that deploy solar at their home to manage and understand how to sell back their power. We've got some very interesting companies in the carbon offset side of things. So not only would you hope to reduce your own carbon footprint, but you might want to invest in some projects that in essence offset carbon. So again, that whole idea of reclaiming carbon from the atmosphere. So rTrace, I'm a user of rTrace. I basically invest in projects that earn me carbon credits to offset the part of the carbon footprint that I create that I can't offset with my solar on my home. So lots of different companies, lots of different areas. I say the four broad categories are transportation, agri-food, energy, and the circular economy, looking at recycling and the circular economy. And of course, the investors, right? So many of these startups need investment capital, and there's over 40 different investor companies, groups are participating with ClimateSolid. Probably well known to a lot of people here on this call would be Mike Cannon-Brooks's family office called Grok Ventures. So you can see, Mike's hat has been stylized there in the logo. But basically, all the top tier venture capital investors have joined into ClimateSolid, and all have initiatives around funding climate and sustainable. So companies in climate tech or addressing sustainability. It's a small team. So when Mick got this kicked off about 9 months ago, never really thought we'd get this much traction so quickly, to have basically the whole investment community in ANZ that's looking at investing in climate tech and sustainability startups, to have a couple of hundred companies kind of signed up as members, with such a really a small team that puts it all together. So we got Mick, who's the founder, and Charlotte, who manages the community, as well as Mandy, also helping out with the community. We got Michael, and he's a climate tech scientist. So for the companies that are, and the people that are members of ClimateSolid, we've got a real climate tech policy scientist, on board, that he knows more about climate than I'll ever know. All of the initiatives going back decades. It's Sarah Pearson as well, advising, Robin as well. And then what I do at ClimateSolid is I mentor companies with respect to growth, business to business strategy, go to market strategy, how to go international, My startup background has spanned engineering, product management, product marketing, business development, and sales. So I really help out with that go-to-market strategy and business development side of things. And very active, been coaching a number of companies. So it's a very vibrant community. It's not, just a community to belong to, but to source expertise, coaching, mentoring, connections, connections to capital, connections from a business perspective. One of the most powerful things about this is a Slack group. So members of ClimateSolid join in the Slack group, and as you imagine, has multiple channels. There's a channel about capital raising. There's a channel on growth marketing. There's a channel about the tech side of things, the science side of things, and it's attracted hundreds of users in a very small amount of time, and it's extremely active. Go to the channel all the time and helping people and seeing people asking for help as well. And so again, some more logos in terms of people that are participating in the Slack community. The ClimateSolid site itself, anyone can go to. It's a website, and it's really a honeypot of news, job listings, tools, and it has become the place that everybody that is interested in climate tech in ANZ is going to. And Mick did something really remarkable. He struck a global partnership with a firm called Holland IQ, and Holland IQ tracks startups globally in different segments. So the ANZ climate tech segment is actually being tracked globally. So we're profiling, gathering data, profiling, and seeing the health and the growth of this segment over time. So it's very exciting to see how that unfolds in the coming years. We host a lot of events. So if you're in the startup space, and particularly if you're in climate or sustainability, we have a lot of events around helping you get insights about growth and go-to-market strategy, capital raising, fundraising, those types of things. So it really has become kind of the place that if you're interested in climate tech and sustainability and a startup in that space, you come to get plugged into a community of like-minded people that are trying to help you grow your business. $200 active founding members, 580 companies founded. As I said, it's actually a little over 600 in terms of the index we've created. 2,000 followers, subscribers, and actually 55 investors. That's up from 43 the last time I checked, with over 2 billion in funds deployed. So it's been a bit of a rocket ship, right? From ideation by Mick, about mid-year, getting it stood up, to getting a tremendous amount of traction. We had a window of opportunity in early December actually to have an annual showcase, and we had it at Fishburners, and we had companies in this space showing what they did. So that was pretty cool. And then we had awards kind of a thing, and it turned out to be an amazing event. Hundreds of people showed up to find out what was happening, to get involved, get interested, and it was so successful. Actually, we're going to start running them every quarter. So I'll let this group know so that people are they're interested in climate tech and sustainability, want to talk to companies in that space, maybe pursue opportunities to work on their cloud infrastructure. This is a great place to come and meet those companies. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that they all need talent. You've either got very early stage companies, 1 or 2 years in, that are building their minimum viable product and getting it out into market. And then of course you have a few older companies, 6, 7 years old, but now they're starting to scale, so they're hiring. So this space, because of all the investment dollars going in, being the second largest investment category, because of the social impact and the environmental impact and the awareness, right? So I think we probably all saw something about COP26 in the news. We've all seen, in the news, our politicians talking about addressing climate change and what their policies are going to be. So it's an incredibly hot area, and they're all looking for good talent. All of these companies looking for good talent. So in 2022, we've got some ambitious goals ahead. We want to double the founder community. We want to increase to 250 companies that we're actually helping. So that'll be about half of all the companies in ANZ that we've identified. And we're actually keeping track of impacts. So when we do, say, growth mentoring sessions and make business connections, we're actually keeping track. Did that result, did that move in the needle for that company? So we're big on data, we're big on metrics and measuring, as you would be. As you know, AWS is big on data. So we're tracking all this stuff, trying to make sure we have a measurable impact. From a community perspective, we want to more than double the number of members, 5x the number of followers, and continue to create content items. And from an investment perspective, we want to bring in not only the Australian investors, but really global investors that are investing in this segment, right? So folks like Bright Capital have gotten a lot of money locally, particularly through Mike Cranenburg's family fund, Grok Ventures. But some of the other companies are looking further afield. They want to get global investment. One of the companies in this cohort called Village Energy raised money from the global ClimateTech fund that Richard Branson and Bill Gates and others have put money into. So it's important to cast a broader eye and a broader net, because the technologies and companies that we develop here can certainly go play on the global stage, can certainly replicate what they're doing here with respect to energy or agri-food or the circular economy for the US and for Europe. So it's a great segment to be in, because it's so high impact locally, but it also is tremendous business opportunity globally. In startups here in Australia, I've lived here for about 10 years. I have a startup background from the States and the UK, Canada. I lived in different places. And when I came here 10 years ago, the conversation is always around, if you're an Australian startup, you need to go after a global market, because the market here, is small comparison to, say, Europe or China or the US or whatnot. With ClimateTech, what's really interesting is there's a massive market opportunity here, and there's a massive market opportunity globally. So it's a real shift in startup thinking. So getting some investment here, getting some traction here, and then you can parlay that in other markets and go global. And certainly in these last 10 years, the startup ecosystem has matured, tremendously. You could probably count on one hand the number of venture capital firms that were in the market 10 years ago. And now we've got dozens upon dozens of venture capital firms funding companies in this space. Hey, if what I'm talking about is struck a chord with you and you're interested, you want to get involved, you could be like many of us, in this community, and stick your hand up and participate. So you can join. You can join ClimateSolid. You can take advantage of all that kind of content in the conversation, get involved in the conversation, start to become aware of some of these companies. You could share. We have a really active Slack channel around climate news, and probably every day, almost every day, I'm posting something I've seen. So it's like having a news crawler about this area you're interested in amongst hundreds of people. So you're kind of getting all this great content. You can contribute. You can write posts. Every company that joins, we write a profile. We're always looking for people to help craft those profiles, create content. And in fact, if there's a specific skill that you bring to the table, digital marketing, digital creative, besides your or even your AWS skills, if you want to help some of these companies, you can get involved in that way. I've actually set up a CTO and kind of tech channel within the Slack community that Daryl has graciously agreed to join, along with some of my solution architects at AWS and other places, where we're taking questions from these companies about their architecture, about their tech stack, what works, what doesn't work, what help do they need, what challenges. We're kicking that off in earnest this month. That might be an area where you can get involved. And if you happen to work in a large corporate that is thinking about how to engage in more sustainable, well, let's call it, ensuring that they're doing things that have an impact from a sustainability perspective. Maybe they like to be a ClimateSolid sponsor. So ClimateSolid does have some corporate sponsors which help to defray the cost of keeping this community together and running and managing it and putting on the showcases and all of that. If you think that your business is potentially got a pathway to partner with ClimateSolid, by all means, ping them as well, or you can ping me, and I'll put you in touch with the right people. I think the most important thing that I learned last year was, I was carrying around, as I was saying, this kind of like climate guilt, because even since the late 80s, my brother took a degree in environmental studies. So we've been talking about the greenhouse effect and climate change for a long time. And of course, you may have seen the Inconvenient Truth movie that Al Gore put together. And that, this is really kind of like a gut punch, like, wow, we really are destroying the planet. This is not good. This is not good. I've got kids. What am I leaving to my kids? What sort of legacy are we leaving, by passively participating in this economy that's not going in the right direction? So the one thing that I took away last year was you can actually put that aside, and there are things to be done. There's things that you can do personally. There's things you can do in your professional life. There are communities like this, and there's so much energy that is moving in a positive direction to get positive about it and get engaged, rather than to just embrace the negative and disengage from what's happening. This is the membership charter. I won't really go through this. It just gives you an idea of the ethos of the community. It is a community trying to help these startup founders, first and foremost, to be successful with their companies, because if they do, then their products and solutions are going to have a material impact on climate change, and hopefully reverse and remediate the effects of climate change. It tracks very closely with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, as you can imagine. I think the UN has done a fabulous job, actually, of setting forth kind of the tenets and providing a place where the climate change is studied and policies are fomented. So we follow all of the UN Sustainability Development Goals in what we're doing with our charter. Heavily committed, I'll just call out, heavily committed to diversity and inclusion. But one of the things that's been amazing, not amazing to see, but just great to see, is far more female founders, in the ecosystem over the years. I mentioned Bright Capital was founded by Catherine McConnell. So it's a female founder-led business. So diversity and inclusion is very, very important to us at AWS, if we're going to be partnering with ClimateSolid, to make sure that they live by that same ethos. Membership, if you wanted to become a member, it's you join, it's $100 a year, and you have access to all of this content and the Slack channels and what have you. So hopefully this has given you some food for thought, or at the very least giving you some perspective about what's happening in ANZ around climate. It's a growing movement, really within the last 10 years. It's fundamental. So some of these startup companies are doing deals with large energy companies, large businesses that are embracing sustainability and the need to have a positive impact in their corporate charters, which I think is incredibly exciting, because usually it's the little startup company trying to disrupt the behemoths. But in this case, it's a little bit different. The behemoths are actually waking up and wanting to be part of the positive change. So they're inviting these startup companies in to do business together to try to move forward. And that certainly isn't true of other startup segments. Really, sometimes it's impossible to partner, and you're going up against the giant, in the industry. But I find this space to be incredibly collaborative, because at the end of the day, people are not only hoping to do well, with their companies and what they're doing, but they're hoping to do good, with some purpose, a social and environmental impact. So that's all I have for you today. I'd be happy to answer questions and get a conversation going around this.
Sorry, question from me. So if someone was looking to get into a technical role in climate tech, would you suggest any specific training, whether it be AI, ML, or IoT, or is it pretty broad in its scope?
Yeah, great question. So in essence, what technologies are being applied to these businesses? A lot of data, as you can imagine. So data and analytics, machine learning, AI are being used, in these businesses. There's a real mix of software and hardware. So good old SaaS software is required for a number of segments. Let's take Grid Cognition as an example. They have a SaaS system to help people figure out what the impact would be of a project, say a solar project. So if you were a gas station chain and wanted to put solar arrays on all of your gas stations, modeling that project is SaaS software. At the end of the day, it's algorithms, it's data. There's quite a bit of happening in the software space. IoT definitely is so in agri-food. We've all seen kind of the growth of IoT in agri-food, and actually, I'll take a step back to answer your question. It kind of depends what segment you want to go into. Agri-food, definitely IoT and data. If they're going down the SaaS side of things, definitely data analytics, machine learning, and AI components there. On the energy side of things, there's both an IoT play and a data play, again, because there are new devices going into your power panels on your homes or your businesses to figure out what's going on with the energy sources, to also regulate the solar that perhaps is coming in and putting that back to the grid. And at the end of the day, honestly, they need basic. These companies need the basic, cloud and DevOps help and support. So, on an average day, I talk to 4 or 5 startup companies, and they all still need the foundational roles. They need DevOps roles. They need SecOps roles. So if you understand cloud and you want to get involved in this space, plenty of job opportunities. And ClimateSolid itself has a job board, so you can join ClimateSolid, or put your hand up and say that you're interested in opportunities in that space, and I'll bet you get hoovered up pretty quickly, to be honest.
Great, thanks for that. If any other questions coming in, other than that, thanks a lot for the presentation. It's great to hear how much focus businesses are putting in environmental solutions. Would also be pretty interesting to see some of these client tech solutions in action. Whether we get maybe someone in front of the group would be good.
Yeah, we will do these showcases quarterly now, because we saw the profound effect of people actually coming and seeing and talking. We've kind of forgotten, right? For the last 2 years, we've mainly been at home. There have been no real trade shows. Of course, reInvent did happen this year on a much smaller scale, but there hasn't been these opportunities to interact so much. So I'll definitely let Daryl know when we're doing those kinds of things. So you come out, talk to the companies, see what they're doing, make some connections, figure out how to get involved. Hopefully we're returning to the 3D world, the interactive world here soon.
Yeah, great. And Stefan, thank you for presenting today, by the way.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. I think it's really powerful to tell the positive side of this story, because we see all this negative stuff in the news, and it's just like in reality, you don't have to worry so much about the political landscape. Actually, the market is driving all of this, and that's one of the things I've learned. It's been so surprising. It doesn't matter what's happening at the government layer to a large extent. The power companies themselves are deciding to decommission their coal power plants sooner because it makes better economic sense. So there's a lot of positive stuff going on that you can get involved with and contribute to. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come and tell a little bit of this ClimateSolid story and how it intersects with AWS and Amazon's broader view of with its climate pledge of being a fully sustainable company and sourcing, only climate neutral energy. We've invested in solar farms in various places. One right in New South Wales in order to meet that pledge. So I think it's tremendous, and I hope more folks in the AWS community in this meetup, get involved because we can be part of a very positive change.
Yeah, it's great, and just to kind of like the journey, I think for Polar 7. So that we've sponsored a polar bear who's kind of the first line to show that global climate change is happening. But it's taken us 7 years to get to this point, and I think similar to you, before I spoke to you last year, I was reading the book Speed and Scale from John Doerr, and it's such a positive spin on the whole outlook as well, and it's an action plan for helping to solve the climate. And that was the engagement where I kind of reached out to you and we started this whole journey. So I guess Polar 7, we're looking forward to, theming and bringing more awareness through this meetup for the rest of the year. So if anybody wants to reach out and, has ideas and wants to, and it is, it's outside politics, it's the collaboration of lots of small little groups have created such a positive groundswell that's going to, kick off in the next couple of years, and the timeline is fixed, right? So we have this timeline that we're working to, and yeah, everybody should get involved. So looking forward to sharing more themed sessions with you throughout the year.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And if anybody, as always, I work at AWS. So you got any AWS stuff you need help with, let me know. I work with startups. If you're in a startup and want to know more about our programs or credits for startups or stuff like that, ping me, and I'm here. And if you're in climate, come along to ClimateSolid. If you're interested, come along to ClimateSolid and get involved.
Great, thanks, Stefan. You close it out there, Jackson.
Thanks a lot. So we'll be posting the recording and presentation slides after the meetup on our website, and we'll just do one last poll to finish off. So just on a scale of 1 to 5, if you could just rate today's presentation. 5 obviously meaning really enjoyed, 1 not so much.
Are you going to show me the results as well? Boy, that's awesome. Feedback loop, data, metrics.
I'll share the results.
Yeah, I liked content, but that guy was really boring. I fell asleep halfway through.
Okay,
cool.
Thanks everyone for giving the feedback, and looks like everyone got some good points out of it.
All right,
so
no one fell asleep. That's good. Awesome. Hey, thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Great having you here. Hope to see you or have you on the meetup again soon.
Yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks everyone. Cheers.
Thanks all.